She's in the ground. So there's...
Who is it?
My mom!
Lady.
Daddy!
Quiet. What the hell? Where's my wife?
So, Daddy!
So.
You okay? Sydney. 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 Sydney.
Well, I'm really bad news. Your wife passed away.
She sat motionless in the courtroom, her back perfectly straight, as if everything happening around her were nothing more than a poorly staged play in which she had been assigned a minor role. Her hands were neatly folded in her lap, her gaze fixed straight ahead, not on the judge, not on the jurors, but somewhere beyond them, into emptiness. Sydney Powell was not crying. She was not trembling. She was not searching the room for her father, who was seated several rows behind her. And it is precisely from this moment, from the courtroom, from this silence and this vacant stare that the story begins. A story that had already become a tragedy long before any verdict was reached. Akron, Ohio, was long known as the rubber capital of the world, a reference to the city's historical role as a center of the tire and rubber industry. It is a city with a measured pace of life, where family values and good neighborliness traditionally come first. It was here, in a cozy house on Scrivener Avenue, that the Powell family lived. Stephen and Brenda Powell were considered a model couple. Brenda, a 50-year-old social worker at Akron Children's Hospital, was the heart of any gathering. Over 28 years of work, she helped thousands of families facing childhood cancer. Her colleagues recalled that she possessed a rare gift, the ability to listen and empathize as if someone else's pain were her own. Their daughter, Sydney, was the pride of the family. From an early age, she showed exceptional promise. At St. Vincent, St. Mary Catholic High School, she not only earned straight A's but was also socially active. She played soccer and volunteered. Those around her saw her as a golden girl, smart, beautiful, and polite. Any grade below an A was perceived by her as a personal failure. She lived in constant fear of disappointing her parents, who, ironically, never demanded the impossible from her. This internal pressure to be perfect became the foundation upon which her grand deception would later be built. In 2018, Sydney enrolled at the University of Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio. She chose psychology, perhaps hoping to understand her own mechanisms of anxiety. Her freshman year went smoothly, but during her sophomore year, something began to crack. The academic workload increased, and Sydney started to drown. Instead of asking for help, she withdrew. By December of 2019, her academic performance had become disastrous. She failed 3 out of 4 core courses. The university administration followed protocol. Sydney received an official notice of dismissal. She signed the paperwork, fully aware that her status as a student had been revoked. And at that moment, she made the decision that would seal her fate. No one could be allowed to find out. Winter break passed in an atmosphere of pretense. Sydney behaved as usual, discussing plans for the spring semester. In January of 2020, she pretended to pack, loaded her belongings into her car, and left for school. Taking advantage of the fact that her electronic keycard was still active due to a bureaucratic delay in the security system, January and February of 2020 became a period of total surrealism for Sydney. Every morning, she woke up in her campus room, despite having no legal right to be there. She attended sorority meetings, ate in the dining hall, and even occasionally sat in on lectures, simply to maintain the appearance of being a student. However, the university administration began to notice the ghost. On February 24th, 2020, Sydney was officially removed from the dormitory by campus security. This was a critical moment. Almost anyone else would have called their parents, admitted the failure, and asked for help moving out, but not Sydney. She rented a room at a cheap motel, and when the money started to run out, she began sleeping in her car. Her text messages with her mother during this period are a monument to cold composure. Brenda wrote, "Sweetheart, how's chemistry going? We're so proud of you." Sydney replied, "Everything's great, Mom. Studying for tests, they gave us a ton of work." She created detailed descriptions of a university life that did not exist. The pressure grew with every passing hour, turning her life into a string pulled taut to the breaking point. The unraveling came on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. Stephen Powell, who was at work at Family Steel Treating Company, tried to log into the university's parent portal to pay tuition and housing fees. The system returned an error. Student with this ID not found. Alarmed, Stephen called the registrar's office. The employee's response landed like a bolt from the blue. Your daughter was dismissed back in December. She is no longer our student. Stephen opened the Life 360 app, a family location sharing application commonly used in the United States. It showed that Sydney's phone was not in Alliance, but at their home in Akron. Confused and deeply worried, Stephen drove home. He found Sydney in the basement. A painful confrontation followed. At first, Sydney tried to claim it was a system error, but then she broke down in tears. She talked about what a failure she was, how ashamed she felt. Stephen, as a loving father, tried to calm her. He told her they would fix everything and asked her to wait for Brenda, who had already left work and was on her way home. Brenda Powell arrived home around noon. By that time, she was already in contact with the Mount Union Administration Dean John Fraser and Michelle Gaffney. They wanted to help the family resolve issues related to Sydney's personal belongings still left on campus. Brenda entered the house with her phone pressed to her ear. She was speaking with Dean Fraser when she walked into her daughter's room. What the university employees heard on the other end of the line would later become key evidence in court. At first, Brenda's calm voice could be heard. Then came a sudden, heavy udar, a forceful blow. This was followed by Brenda's piercing, terror-filled scream. Dean Fraser shouted into the phone, "Brenda, what's happening?" In response, he heard a series of dull thuds, no fewer than 20. Then there was silence. About a minute later, someone picked up the phone. The voice was hoarse, attempting to imitate the intonation of an adult woman. "This is Brenda," the voice said, but Dean Fraser did not believe it. He had known Brenda for many years. "Sydney, is that you? Put your mother on the phone," he demanded. There was silence, and the call disconnected. Fraser immediately dialed 911. While police were racing to the house, Sydney Powell acted quickly.
Hey, we got, I just arrived on scene. We got a victim in the house, possible 22, cut to the throat. We got a young female laying at the end of the driveway, saturated in blood, no idea what her status is yet. That guys are on scene here, so. No, she is not. She's moving. She's still down on the ground, though. I don't know what her status is. Med guys haven't approached her yet. So,
The back window is
yeah, and we got a male here that lives here. I think it's the dad, so we're watching him. So I have no idea what's going on yet. Do you live here, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my wife and there's my daughter.
Okay, how old's your daughter?
She'll be 20 in March. She's 19
Okay.
as of today.
I don't know what's going on yet.
Huh? Are they thinking she did this?
I don't know what happened. Come on. Let me ask you, is she having a problem with a guy at school or no?
No, not that.
Okay.
Hey there, can you come up here? They're taking Brenda to General Hospital. I don't know. I'm in the back of a cop car. There's about probably 10 cops. Supposedly, it looks like a break-in, but I don't know what's going on. But they're taking her to Akron General.
Realizing she would be caught, she decided to stage an attack. She ran into the backyard and smashed a window in the door leading into the house. The first responding officers saw a young woman in a state of complete hysteria. "Help my mom! Someone was there." He came in through the window. She screamed.
Take her outside. Come on. Come on.
Is she gonna be okay?
Come on.
I
Come on. Come on. You just need to cooperate with me, all right?
love my dad.
Huh?
I love my dad.
What happened? What's going on? What's going on?
We heard a bang. bang, and she told me to get out, and then I heard screaming, so I came back, and she was on the ground.
Okay, you heard a
I ran
bang.
out back. There was a big, someone broken.
Okay. What is your name?
Sydney?
Are you cut?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're cut somewhere.
I don't think so.
Yeah, your hand.
No, I was helping her. I grabbed her.
All right, stop. I'll tell you what, can you sit on the ground here real quick? Come on. Come on.
You said the ground.
Yeah, you're fine right there.
No.
You're fine right there.
I grabbed the knife.
This is minor. They might have a more, I don't know. Check that victim in there. She's got cuts on her hands. I don't know what they have in there, but there's a female down in there. Yeah.
What's going on?
I don't know. We just got
I'm the dad. I'm the dad.
Okay,
Sydney.
what's-
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Daddy.
What? What the hell? Where's my wife?
The window's broken, Dad.
Where?
The back window's broken in.
So you're gonna have to. There's
Daddy.
officers inside there, so
I don't know. She was there.
go
Was
check
so
the
much
lady in the
blood.
house. Okay, she's got minor cuts. It's pretty bad up there. What's your name, ma'am? Sorry, what's your name again? She's got cuts on her hands.
Okay.
So.
Take care of her.
Dave, I think this is. Are you dad?
Yeah, I'm the dad.
Can you stay here with them?
We have another. I'll call for another med unit.
This is when I found it. She's been, I think she has been going to class for the last couple of weeks.
So she just came home today.
Yeah, today. It's like 11 o'clock.
Sydney. Sydney. Sydney.
Oh, fuck. What is going on with
Sydney. What's going on? Huh?
Officers entered the house. In the master bedroom, they found Brenda. The scene was nightmarish, even for seasoned crime scene investigators. Sydney's version of an intruder began to fall apart within the first hours. Forensic investigators focused on the broken window. Most of the glass shards were lying on the grass outside the house. This indicated that the glass had been broken from the inside, not from the outside. If a burglar had forced entry, the shards would have been inside the room. Moreover, nothing in the house had been stolen. But the most compelling evidence was the dean's phone call. The testimony of John Fraser and Michelle Gaffney left no doubt.
Yes.
Okay, what is that document?
This would be the letter indicating that Sydney was suspended.
Okay, so that's a suspension letter. That's the letter that's sent to students?
Yes.
Okay. And that directs them on who to contact if they want to appeal or to address what's going on?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Gaffney, who is that letter specifically to?
This is to Sydney.
Now, you mentioned that this letter of suspension is sent via certified mail. Is there a tracking system that Mount Union uses to ensure that that student has proper notice? Is there a signature?
There is a signature required.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that once a student is suspended, wouldn't be allowed back into the dorms. Can you explain the process of who's allowed in the dorms and who's allowed to use Mount Union's facilities as a student?
So to live on campus, you have to be enrolled as a full-time student.
And part of that suspension, that student will lose access to all of those availabilities.
Yes.
Okay. Gaffney, at some point, did you yourself meet Sydney Powell?
I did.
Okay. And what happened? Were you able to contact Miss Powell?
I was. And
Okay.
Sydney came over to the office.
Okay. Can you describe that interaction?
I think when she first came in, I said, Sydney, there seems to be some confusion. It seems as though you haven't moved out of your residence hall yet, from what I can tell. But you're not enrolled this semester. You're not a student here this semester. And at first she replied to me that, oh, I am, but I'm still a student here. And that's when I actually addressed the fact that the suspension, I said, Sydney, you received a suspension letter that you signed for. And so we spoke a little bit further, and she said, well, yes, she had, but she had been hoping to get things changed or fixed, and so she had been trying to work things out.
So she did acknowledge that she knew about her suspension.
She did acknowledge then that she knew she was suspended.
Any information that something might be going on with Sydney and Mount Union?
The only thing that I knew is when I tried to sign on to the like their whatever app that they have on the website, it kept kicking me out.
Why were you trying to get into that portal?
Seeing, because the 529 plan didn't cover all the tuition for the year, so I had to make a personal check.
Okay.
So I had to see how much that was.
Okay. And when you had difficulty logging onto that portal, what did you do?
I asked Sydney what was going on about it.
Okay, and what did she say?
There was a mistake with Mount Union.
Okay.
And she'd look into it.
Okay, and at that point you had no reason not to trust
Correct.
what she's telling you?
Correct.
The attack happened instantly, and Sydney was the only person in the house at that moment. The fact that she attempted to impersonate her mother on the phone immediately after the killing pointed to an extraordinary level of self-control and calculation.
Let me ask you this, Officer Jackson. When you first encountered Miss Powell, can you describe to her what she was acting like, what she looked like?
She was frantic, or I would say panicking. She had deep breathing, fast-paced speech. She had some blood on her sweatshirt that she was wearing.
The trial, which began 3 years after the murder in September of 2023, became a media sensation. Sydney Powell's defense team chose a strategy of not guilty by reason of insanity, commonly referred to in the United States as NGRI. The defense's main trump card was the testimony of 3 psychiatric experts. They claimed that Sydney suffered from a severe form of schizophrenia that had gone undiagnosed. According to Dr. Reardon, Sydney had been living in a prodromal psychotic state for months. Her lies about school were not cunning manipulation, but a psychological defense mechanism unable to cope with reality. At the moment of the killing, when her mother learned the truth, Sydney experienced a complete break with reality, a psychotic episode in which she was not aware of her actions.
Managed to conceal that, and I mean, I think the concealment, you could say it was because she was deceptive. I think that a more likely explanation is that failing was not an option in her mind. I mean, in her mind, if she failed, then she was a failure. And I think that is when some of the early manifestations of thought disorder, some of the early auditory hallucinations were manifest. But again, she didn't seek or couldn't seek help because, you know, if you're a successful graduate student athlete at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's, you don't do that. It was just, it was inconsistent with her picture of herself. I think that things began to, it's kind of like a building wave, you know, and I think the wave really began to get out of control probably in November, December of 2019. And again, I believe that it's very likely that at that point she was already, if she hadn't begun the process even earlier, probably maybe even summer of 19, certainly during the fall of 19, she began to kind of cross the line from normal self-critical thoughts to significantly disordered thoughts, to psychotic thoughts, including highly critical auditory hallucinations. You're worthless, you're a failure, you don't deserve to live, those kinds of thoughts.
The defense painted a portrait of a fragile young woman whose demons had finally broken free. They cited her strange behavior in school when she claimed she had stopped seeing numbers as early signs of illness. The prosecution, however, presented a completely different narrative. Prosecutor Brian Lokes insisted that Sydney was a cold-blooded manipulator who killed her mother because she was the final obstacle to exposing her lies. Her testimony became a turning point. Obradovich conducted a detailed analysis of Sydney's digital life. No evidence was found on her phone of searches related to hallucinations or mental disorders prior to the crime. On the contrary, her browser history showed that Sydney was actively engaged in online social life, interested in fashion and television series. Psychotic individuals do not plan lies 3 months in advance. Psychotic individuals do not imitate a victim's voice on the phone 60 seconds after a murder, Obradovich stated. She diagnosed Sydney with borderline personality disorder, with sociopathic traits, and malingering, the deliberate feigning of illness for secondary gain. One of the most emotionally difficult parts of the trial was the testimony of Sydney Powell. A man who had lost his wife at the hands of his own daughter stood before the jury and defended Sydney. He insisted that his daughter was not herself. Stephen and the entire extended Powell family, including Sydney's grandparents, pleaded with the court for leniency, arguing that Brenda herself would not have wanted her daughter to go to prison.
I believe Mount Union called me. They called me, and the conversation was that Sydney wasn't enrolled anymore. And then I asked for how long, and they said, you have to ask her.
Okay. And I'm sure that came as a shock to you?
Yes.
And again, they said you have to ask. I know it sounds cold, but they're saying you have to ask her because they can't give you any more information, right?
That was my assumption.
What prompted you to go home, to leave work and go home?
Because I saw on the app she was home, which I thought was a little bit early.
Okay.
The 360 life.
The 360 app showed that she was home?
Yes.
If someone on that app comes home, do you get like a little buzz or notification on your phone?
If it's set up, you can.
Okay. So did you just happen to see that on the 360 app, or did it give you like a notification?
I might have got a notification. I don't recall.
Okay. So you get a notification that Sydney's at home, correct?
Yes.
When you see that, you go home.
Correct.
All right. And why did you go home?
Just to see why she was home.
Okay. Did you have any concern for her at that time?
Just because Mount Union said she wasn't enrolled, but no, I was just going to go home and see why she was home so early. And
okay. And did you take your phone with you when you went home?
No.
And why not?
I just left it at work so the 360 app wouldn't show me coming home.
Told you she was essentially still enrolled, but just having some trouble?
I don't know if she used the word trouble, but...
and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You tell me. What did she say?
She was... Again, I don't remember the details, but I remember she said she was still going to some of her classes with her friend Lauren.
Do you remember telling her that, you can't run away from your problems, you have to face them?
I said we'd go through, let's get through this semester, and if you needed to take the summer off or we would work through it. I remember she said, all her friends have their shit together and she doesn't, and I told her, no, that's not true.
She said she didn't. Sydney said, I don't have my shit together, but my friends do.
Yeah. She didn't know what she wanted to do, it sounded like.
Sure.
This position shocked the public. Many saw it as a form of codependency or an unwillingness to accept that they had raised a monster. It looked like a furious attempt to silence a witness. On September 20th, 2023, the jury returned its verdict, guilty.
Ms. Powell, is there anything you want to say to me at this time? All right. Thank you very much. First of all, to the victims, to the family and friends, I am terribly sorry for your loss here. I cannot imagine what you have been through. I have received and read all of the letters that have been sent to me. I have considered the evidence that was brought into evidence at the trial, the statements of counsel, and all of the information that is before me at this time. Based upon the facts and circumstances of this case and in consideration of the relevant sentencing factors, including seriousness and recidivism, and applying the minimum sanction that the court has determined will protect the public and punish the offender without imposing an unnecessary burden on state and local resources, the court imposes the following sentence. On count 1, ma'am, I sentence you to an indefinite sentence of 15 years to life in the Ohio Department of Corrections. On count 4 of the indictment, I sentence you to 3 years in the Ohio Department of Corrections. Those two sentences to be run concurrent with and not consecutive to each other. Ma'am, understand that you have a right to appeal this decision, and that notice of appeal must be filed within 30 days of the sentencing judgment entry. Your attorney has indicated to me that you are without funds to hire an attorney to represent you for appeal. Is that correct? And you wish for me to appoint counsel to represent you?
Yes, sir.
All right. I will do that, and we will try and get that done before you leave the Summit County Jail. Ma'am, I will not fine you. I will not assess you court costs in this matter. Good luck to you, Ms. Powell. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Sydney Powell was found guilty of murder, felonious assault, and tampering with evidence. On September 28th, Judge Kelly McLaughlin delivered the sentence. She emphasized the brutality of the crime and the fact that Sydney had betrayed the person closest to her. The young woman was sentenced to life in prison. Under Ohio law, she will be eligible to apply for parole only after 15 years. In the year 2038, the Sydney Powell case leaves more questions than answers. Could schizophrenia truly have remained hidden for so long? Or are we dealing with an extreme case of what psychologists call a narcissistic injury, in which a person is willing to destroy an entire world, in this case, a family, rather than admit personal failure? The Powell case has become a textbook example in criminal psychology. It shows that behind the brightest facades of success, the darkest abysses sometimes lie. Brenda Powell, who devoted her life to saving other people's children, was killed by her own child, someone who never learned how to lose. Sydney is now incarcerated in an Ohio State correctional facility. Her father continues to visit her, still believing that on that fateful afternoon of March 3rd, someone else was present in their home, if not a burglar, then an illness that stole his daughter from him.